Well, friends, it appears he's gone. This park has some old houses right next to it. And this one right here, for years, basically as long as I've been in Shizuoka, it's around very close to my house. There's been a foreigner that's lived here, a curious man. I'll tell you about him now. And it appears he's gone. He usually has two bicycles. He has a very idiosyncratic, kind of a modern type of bicycle usually there. And he had an older one, the same thing there, that he had used to ride. And all of his stuff was here. And he lived here all alone. I don't even know what nationality he was. He was an English speaker, a Caucasian fella. And, I lived just on the other side over there. And he and I have known each other for years. He had a pretty big place here. It appears he's gone. Let me tell you about him. And the reason that there's a woman admiring her garden. And there's a train. It's a nice little neighborhood here. Let me cross the street and then I'll tell you about him. Because he is interesting. He's rather emblematic of some types of foreigners that live here in Japan. You don't need to look at me. Let's look at the as I walk. It's much more interesting. This man, I could never get close to him because every conversation we ever had was a contest, not instigated by me, but he seemed to always be on making an effort to try and illustrate to me how much more experience and how much longer he'd been in Japan than I had. So we would, I'd see him at the train station, and I'd walk over to him and say hello and sit down. And first of all, he'd always kind of pretend like he'd never known me before, and it was always like meeting him for the first time again. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I just think this was just his character, a rather curious man. And I would say to him, "This pretty garden?" Well, that's not what I said to him. I'd say to him, I'm headed down to Matsuri. I'm going to go to the festival in Shimizu. And his response would be, "Oh, I've been here so long. I've been to more Matsuri. I never want to go to another Matsuri again in my life." Look at this. This is a religious ofura on the front of this house. It's a cool old house, or not an old house, but it's an old estate area. And his basic, and then I'd say, what do you like to do in Shizuoka? Well, I've been here so long, I've done it all. I don't need to do anything. You couldn't have a conversation with him because it was all, an effort on his part to demonstrate his seniority in Japan. And that's all cool and fine. Now, the reason I'm not talking about him, he was a nice enough fellow otherwise, except for that's how all of our conversations met whenever I met him. And if I ran across him, if he was riding that bicycle of his along and I waved at him, he would barely acknowledge me. And we get that people all over the place. But you run across these kind of people here in Japan. If you come to live here, you'll run across them periodically who their life and living here and their interaction with others is, especially other foreigners, is one defined by their seniority and their status here. Now, I've always wished that this guy could meet Jim, who's been here a lot longer. I would love to see that kind of interaction. Although Jim's not the kind to play that game. Jim doesn't give a damn about how long he's been here or anything like that. He just wants to have fun. Yeah, Jim just wants to have fun. Well, I'll leave it at that. When I start singing, it's time to push the stop button. Bye-bye, folks. Have a great day. And a happy Mother's Day.